Welcome to the Heart Centered Sales Leader podcast on webtalkradio.net. I, of course, am your heart centered sales leader and host, Connie Whitman. Now, I hope every week as you tune in, we shift that word sales of icky and sleazy and pushy and manipulative to really one of care, love, and respect, which is where we should always be coming from. Now, to help on that mindset journey of that little paradigm shift, go to my website, whitmanassociates.com/CSA for communication style assessment. Figure out how you're showing up and how people are seeing you so that you really can embrace your superpowers and beware of those blind spots, because the blind spots is typically what kicks us in the rear ends. So go to whitmanassociates.com/CSA. And my last big ask for you, for everyone listening, is if you love the show, please subscribe, rate, and review. That just helps on the Apple podcast. It helps me and it helps get the word out bigger and better. So I really do appreciate that support. Now, my motivational quote today is by Dr. Michelle Mazur, and she says, when people act on your message, they begin to change. They don't just change their behavior, they change their identity. They begin to become someone new because of your message. Now, would you say that when you communicate, do you think you do it effectively? Do you think people listen when you speak, or are they the deer in headlights, right? Where they're kind of checking out and that glazed look on their face? Not cool, right? When people do that. Well, why are they doing that? So today I'm really excited to speak with, of course, my amazing expert, and her name is Precious Williams. Now, Precious is a world-class master communicator who works with successful entrepreneurs and speakers to help them take their professional pitching and speaking skills to the next level. Now, with over 26 years of experience, Precious is known for innovative training programs to her clients and sales teams at Fortune 500 companies. Now, these companies include these amazing names like Google, Microsoft, LinkedIn, NBC Universal. It's just so much more. Now, as a 13-time National Business Elevator Pitch Champion, Williams has been featured on season 8 of ABC Shark Tank. We got to talk about that one. Forbes magazine, CNN, ABC, MSNBC, Wall Street Journal, and the movie was featured in the movie Leap. Now, in 2019 and 2020, Precious became a 2-time best-selling author of the #1 business book series, Bad Bitches with Power Pitches. Love the title, for women entrepreneurs and speakers only. And she's been featured on Times Square billboards, top podcasts, and stages around the world. Now, as a woman, and this is just a little brief background before I bring her on the show, as a woman who was counted out from birth, Precious rose above the mean streets of St. Louis, Missouri, to become an award-winning attorney, champion speaker, killer pitch master, media personality, corporate trainer, and international professional speaker. Then 4 years ago, she lost it all. And with the help of pitching and building true, authentic relationship, she's now amazing, back, bigger, better than ever. Please help welcome Precious to the show. So thank you so much for being on, my fellow East Coaster.
Hey, Queen, I'm so excited to be here. You know, when my bio was read, I'm always like, oh my God, I did do all of that.
Isn't that, and I often say that too. When people read the bio, you're like, I think I'd hire me.
Right. Oh, you remember being a teenager and you had to listen to when they would talk about older people, and you're like, man, I hope one day I get a couple of that. And I was like, that really happened.
Amazing. It's such,
and that's why I say, I was gonna say, that's why I say it's always so good when you bet on yourself and you're not listening to everyone tell you what you're capable of.
Yep.
When they don't know why you were made, they don't know your purpose.
That's right. So
if I don't gamble, but if I'm gonna bet on anything, it's always gonna be on Precious, the killer pitch master.
I love it. Yeah. So tell me, when did you actually realize that you were this freaking amazing, talented speaker?
You know what? I've been speaking since I was 16 years old, but I don't think I realized my talent until I won my 13th national title with the Black Enterprise National Elevator Pitch Competition on May 16, 2013 in Columbus, Ohio. And I remember when I remember, this is true story. So right before the competition, we were sitting at this table, all of these great Black, entrepreneurs, visionaries, VC, all sorts of things. And I remember telling Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, who wrote the book, Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, who is also a business professor at Clark Atlanta University. I went to Spelman College and he taught at Clark Atlanta. So he sat at the table and I told him, I said, you know, I'm gonna win this competition. And he was like, okay. And I knew he didn't believe me. And the truth is, Queen Connie, can I keep it a buck? I didn't either, but I needed to force myself, because if I didn't say it and I didn't say, you know, I'm about to kill the game, I don't
Yeah.
know if I would have. And I needed
Yeah.
him to doubt me, because it's something like Beyonce said years ago, I need people to doubt me. If I'm going to be McDonald's, I need a Burger King because I'm about to slay. And now, you know, having, you know, film movies in LA, Santa Monica, Malibu, Milan, Italy, and stuff like that, it's like Craig and Nobu. It's like, listen, I'm Craig, you can be Nobu. That's what I need.
You're so funny. You know what's so funny about that statement, though, Precious, and I agree with, when someone has told me you can't do that, my instinctively, watch me. Like it's right, that challenge, like the gauntlet's thrown down. Yeah, well, you watch me do it now. And you, it's also funny. I heard you say, like, it's that inner working of, like, I just said that, but inside my head, I'm thinking, holy crap, what if I can't, right? That negative record player. So even someone as successful as you have the negative record player. We all do. The idea is to keep fighting against that and never saying no, or never saying I can't. And I love also how you said, I bet on myself, because no one else is gonna. So if you can't bet on yourself, certainly no one else is going to do that. What made you,
keep it a buck.
and I agree with that 100%. What made you, though, like, have that I'm never giving up kind of reinforcement within yourself, or that power behind you?
Well, I think it also goes back to when I was young, we were latchkey kids. My mother was always at work. And so we had naked night. So I watched all those great, like the Donna Reed show and Leave It to Beaver and Green Acres. Like, I watched all those silly things. But because we actually had cable, I got to watch A&E. The channel doesn't exist anymore, but it was the Arts and Entertainment Channel. And so I used to watch biography, 20th Century American Justice. And that's when I kind of fell in love with Bill Curtis, who was an attorney turned journalist. And he was really good. I also watched Intimate Portrait on Lifetime. I love watching VH1's Behind the Music. And so the reason why I love those is because just because these people are glitzy and glamorous when they're on stage and stuff like that, I want to know how they really got there. And if you listen to most of these big time people who didn't come from money, they were homeless, they were sleeping in their car, like they did everything they could to get there. And so when people say it couldn't be, they were like, listen, if I got to eat another ramen noodle, if I got to dig in this garbage can, I'm gonna make it. And it's also like, remember 50 Cent's album Get Rich or Die Trying? I don't mean to curse, but hashtag this bitch will die trying.
Yes, I got. I love it. I love the title of your book too. It's just cool, and I think it hits home with what the core message is, right?
Right.
So here's the next big one, Precious. Is pitching for everyone?
Yes, pitching is for everyone. You know, when you think about pitching, I want us to take it out of the realm of just pitching for money or pitching to investors. Pitching is something you do every day. When you're talking to your girlfriend about that no good dude in your life, he done messed up again, or you dealing with a woman and she done messed up again, and now you got to go off with your friend and you want that person all involved. Let's say you have a great job or a job you really can't stand. Who do you go to? You talk to your friends, be like, girl, look what my boss said today. That's a pitch. And why is it a pitch? Because you want someone interested in what you're saying and making you the focal point of attention and just going in and going with the story. So if you think about pitching, pitching is like, it's a short, brief way of introducing yourself, your talents, your skill sets, your abilities, in such a way that it attracts, it baits, it attracts and makes you look good in front of that particular person. And if we want to take it to like an even bigger level, or I guess to say down to earth, go to your grandmother's house or go to your mom's house and she's a good cook, or someone who's a really good cook. It's the holidays, so you know they cooking it up in a crock pot. They got it. You step in, your plate is looking good. You like, oh, I'm about to go all in. I'm about to go all in. You take that first fork or that first spoon, you bring it to your lips. You like, I'm about to go ham and cheese and peanut butter and jelly. When you taste that first bite, that's a pitch. Do you know why it's a pitch? The whole plate is not the pitch. The first bite is a pitch because it is the first thing that attracts you. It's enticing you. And now you want more. So that plate is about to be a problem. It's about to be a problem with the plate. But that first time you introduce yourself to someone, the first time you are putting yourself out there, even when you're giving a presentation, every social media post you have is a pitch. I promise you, you are thinking that people aren't paying attention. And I did too when it came to social media. I was like, oh, that's a young people game. No, it's not. Do you know most of my book busy and paid speaking engagements for the biggest companies in the world came from LinkedIn? Because they love the way I post. They love that I go live. They love that someone is teaching pitching in a way that's so different. Communication skills, visibility, and branding. I don't teach what you can find on Google. I go internal when it comes to pitching, because a lot of us think we know so much about ourselves. But if you ask your friends and your family and the people who really love you, they see things in you that you can't see in yourself. Am I right, Connie? Have you ever had a girlfriend or maybe your husband, whatever, say to you, girl, you need to step your game up because you're not giving yourself enough credit. I need you to tell them who you really is. That's what we say in the hood. That's who you really is. And when I'm out in public, who you really are. And so when I tell people, when it like people like the flex, oh, I remember when I was just winning pitch competitions and people are like, but you ain't never been on Shark Tank. I said, neither have you. And now I have been on Shark Tank. Have you?
Yeah. And
Oh,
that
I'm still a 13-time champion. Are
are
you?
you.
Oh, well, Precious, I met these investors and that's what they do. I said, I've met with the same investors. And then we're on a first name basis. Are you? Oh, well, I'm on Clubhouse. Like I have my clients, they're winning competitions on Clubhouse. They're on Shark Tanks and stuff like that. And so when you're pitching yourself, one of the things I want people to always pay attention to is what's your flex game look like? Anybody can tell you they're a great graphic designer. Anybody can tell you they're a photographer. If you're a service-based entrepreneur, a coach, or something like that, anybody can talk a good game. I'm gonna come to you and be like, well, what them results says though? What the results said? Because I
Yeah.
tell people, go to my LinkedIn and check out my testimonials. I didn't write not one, from the biggest companies to individual clients. They'll tell you what I did for them. Why am I booked and busy? But in case you don't believe that, that's why I'm a 13-time national champion. That's why what I teach is not in Google. That's why I'm an international professional speaker. That's why I'm booked, busy, and paid. That's why my clients are signing 2-year corporate training contracts with places they didn't even know existed. That's why even though we can't fly out, I'm being flued out virtually to speak all over the world. In fact, I'm booking speaking engagements for 2022 and 2023. How many people can tell you that? But they can tell you they're a speaker because they went to a guru's I don't know, like a presentation. I'm like,
An event. Yeah. So this is fascinating because a couple of things that you said, I want to break it down, that it's really about the return on investment, right? So, or return on time or return on results, right? It's always about the results. For me too, it's the same thing. That's great. What did you get from it, right? All that effort, what was the actual results, that the pedal to the metal, right? What's the measurement? Because we have to measure. So it's funny. And the other thing, I love that because I'm a results person. Just tell me the results. What are you going to get? Let's break it down so that you understand, and then we can move the needle. That's number one. Number two, the other thing that you said that I found fascinating is when people say to you, oh, I'm a great speaker, right? And are you? It's that what they're trying to do is put you down to bolster themselves up, right? It's their own insecurity screaming at you that I don't know what the heck I'm doing over here and I'm a nervous wreck. So by being able to say, and the thing is, Precious, I don't think you like when someone says it to you, I think you go back at them. Oh yeah, I'm a 13-time best. I win the award for the pitching or whatever. Right? Then you could throw your credentials at them. But when people do that, like, oh, I'm a speaker, and they talk at you about how great they are, in my head, I always think, are you? Like, are you that good?
You know how we be looking at people, be like, I have to get my grandma used to always get a hashtag riddle me that. I hear what you're saying. What's the street saying? And for those of you who don't know what the streets are, what's the world? What's your audience? What's the industry saying? Because right. I tell you, everybody can tell you that they're great until they meet greatness.
That's right.
What did Mike Tyson say? Everybody can fight until they take that first punch. Mike Tyson lets you know that first punch he throws at you. Are you ready? You can talk a good game on these stages. But when we get in that octagon, if with the UFC, when we get in that boxing ring, or with me, when we do it virtually or whether we do it on stage, I come on that stage to slay. I don't care how great of a name it can be Tony Robbins, it could be Les Brown. I don't get afraid. In fact, I'm like this. I feel like what's it? Is it the Joker? Wait till they get all over the man. Thanks.
Like they don't know what's coming, right? Right, Precious? They don't know what's coming.
And I think that's something else you definitely want your audience, because when you talk about heart-centered, right? We're not talking about just being braggadocious. We're not just talking like, yeah, I can be, but I would not be boxed in. And so there are people who are designed to be gatekeepers who don't want you to fly higher than them. If you read the 48 Laws of Power, it's like the student should never outshine the master. And I'm like, but I learned how to do this on the job. I didn't have people teaching me how to speak. Right. And so that's probably why you still hear my accent. That's why I can show up in like burnt orange and yellows and stuff like that, because I am not trying to be anyone else other than myself.
Yeah.
Yes, I have credentials. Yes, I'm a former attorney. Yes, I have an English degree. Yes, I've done some amazing things. But at the end of the day, when someone hits that stage to speak, to pitch, to put forth, when you're at a networking event and they're pitching, what do most of us do when we hear pitches? They all sound the same. So this is what you do. Am I right, Connie?
Yes.
Like, and you know they're talking to you like this. And then when somebody says something, they take something, hold up. I think I heard something different.
That's right. Yeah, it's the pattern. It's like a pattern interrupt, right? Not what they were expecting. Curious, what surprised you most about your journey? Like, were there any moments where you were like, slap me now, what the heck just happened?
You know, being on Shark Tank was a slap me moment. Filming a movie, like I auditioned for a movie and got the lead role. That was like I'm supposed to be that hood girl. Like I'm only supposed to fly. So, and remember, I'm not a rapper. I'm not a sports person. I'm not Oprah. I'm just Precious, right? So a lot of things that happen are so shocking. But I'm gonna tell you the most shocking, and I hope this really, I hope people who've gone through this understand. What's been two of the most beautiful things that have ever happened? Number one, I've been clean and sober from alcohol for 4 years. Nice. That is something I never thought could happen. After I lost the love of my life and went on a downward spiral, became homeless and was reduced down to a blue dress, a blue coat, and a book bag. Yeah, I see the blue. I used to drink so much to numb myself.
Yeah.
I have no desire anymore. Like when people say, oh, Precious, come through, or somebody's gonna be drinking. I'm like, yo, just make sure my Snapple Mango Madness, make sure that's there. Make sure a kiwi strawberry, and make sure that water is on tap. And then nice. Like, you ever get worried? I said, no, not at all. Because I did that. I drank to feel better and to be numb. My life is good now.
Yeah.
The second thing is I walked out of homelessness on September 1st, 2018. And so whenever someone, purchases my book, Bad Bitches and Bower Pitches, or anything that I've done, or any product or any service I've ever had, people think it's just not a big deal. But to me, you're talking to someone who was in a place where I was told, just keep a high paying job. And it was like, no, I want to be Precious Williams. And I'm hoping that whatever I've gone through, other women can see that they don't have to look, sound, and act a certain way in order to be successful. And that the very things that we think will break us are really the things that will make us. And I feel like such a phoenix. And yes, although I've done some amazing things since I've been out, being alcohol free and not white knuckling, but just being like, that beautiful bean footage, you know what I mean? And just being happy about it, you know what I mean? I feel like it shows up in my personality. And that I'm so effervescent. You know what I mean? And so that's joy.
That's true.
And big names and stuff like that are great. It's great, but yeah, that's what I'm proud of.
But at the core, it's who you are. And that's another thing, Precious. I think we're afraid to just be us. Like that's not enough. And so people do all of these other things to try to bolster who they want people to think they are instead of the essence of who they are. So, and congratulations, by the way, by being sober and all of those things, because this is not easy. This stuff's not easy when we have a crisis situation, and not only to come out of it, but then to thrive out of it was just such a cool thing. All right. So I do have to ask, what was the experience like on Shark Tank?
Oh, wow. Okay. So I'd already had clients who'd already been on Shark Tank, right? And I knew it was only a matter of time before, women and men, what they do, they drop that tea. Oh, well, how did you, oh, my girl, Precious Williams. Didn't even make sense, right? And so when they came to me, I didn't have to stand in line. I did a private audition. and everything went smooth. So I flew out on September 11th, 2015. Now, you know, September 11th out of New York, you know, that
Absolutely.
flew into LAX. It was driven to Culver City, you know, to the hotel. And I think in my mind, like, in my business coach at the time, she flew out with me. And I remember just sitting there being like, this is unreal. So unreal, right? And so, you know, we go to Sony Picture Studios, which, if you've never been on a lot or a sound, like, you really don't know. You just know the finished product. You don't really know. So
that's right.
Getting there, you know, going, you know, having my PA drive us over and just being like, oh my God, this is real, right? And they did some things that were so hilarious. Like we get there, I wasn't, all the other contestants were there, and they said something so hilarious. They were like, half y'all going home today. Jigga who? Jigga what? And they were like, so we all had to pitch like right in front of the big producers. And they said, Precious, you're the killer pitch master, go first. Dang, I was trying to, and so I went. When I tell y'all, I couldn't remember my pitch to save my life. That's how scared I was. I don't be getting scared like that. But I did it, and they were like, yeah, you can stay.
That's great.
So when so the day we filmed September 15th. So I remember they brought us over. My business coach couldn't come in. So it was just me, my full figure divas. And we were all just sitting there looking at each other. And in that moment, there was like this calmness of, no matter what happens, we did this. We did.
Yes.
And so when they said, Precious, are you ready? Because I had to go in first. And that door opened and I had to walk down that hallway. I just knew the music was gonna play because I was trying to act up in these streets. The music did not play. I was like this. I said, this must be post-production. Dang, you know. So I walked down, and then the second door opens and you see the sharks. So you walk to your ex. And I remember looking at the sharks. And again, where did they get a load of me? And when they said action, and it's only one take. So what y'all see is not cutting and pasting, I'm telling you. So when I pitched, I watched their eyes just dance. I watched their eyes dance like, is this for real? Because I had on a low-cut canary yellow peplum dress. Y'all know how we get down. Afro and string makeup. And when I finished, you know, I said, okay, ladies, now let's get in formation. The door opened, my full figure date. When I tell you, Mark Cuban was like, you go, girl. Robert Herjavec was like, watching you is like watching a master at their craft. And as a Black woman on both sides, nothing light-skinned about me, I wanted to cut that moment and just say, he said that to me.
Wow.
I'm doing, like, no matter what happens, it's going down.
Yeah.
Need me guaranteed to go down.
Yeah.
So then questions all started, and I was slaying it. And although I did not walk away with an investment, which was what I wanted, is to not walk away. I really just wanted to showcase this is what the best in the world really looks like.
Yeah.
And when it comes to getting investments, you have to know what's right and what's not. So there will be people who are on Shark Tank that I want to make it clear. Some people are there for exposure and some people are there for the investment. Either way, you can't go wrong.
It's a win-win, right, Precious? It to get there, it's just a win-win. In addition, that experience, think about everything you learned from the moment you landed till the moment you got back home in New York, right? So we look at things as, well, that didn't work, but I try to tell my kids this, but what did you learn? Sometimes what you learned is priceless, right?
Girl, you're so right. And you know, the good thing is I walked in knowing I didn't want one. So all the negotiations, in the end, I'm like, I don't care what they say. I'm not going with this. I knew it. And so when we finished, I broke down into tears, and the producers were kind of shocked. They were like, nothing went wrong. And I was like, no, I said, I wanted to prove that a Black woman can get on here and go toe to toe with the sharks.
Yeah.
And gain their respect. And I did it.
Yeah.
And so that was worth me crying, because they really thought something went wrong, or maybe I was having a breakdown. I was like, no, I just wanted it to be known that a person of color, a Black woman from the inner city of St. Louis, Missouri, with her English degree, her law degree, and all that kind of stuff, I did what was asked of me by society. And then I took it to the next level completely.
And I think that's important, showing up as that authentic self, it just speaks volumes that there's, there, you don't have to have a pretense, because just being you and I, before we even started recording, we were giggling and we were shutting things down because the internet wasn't working, and right, we were just goofing around with each other, and that's okay, even though we've never met face to face, even though we're really close proximity to each other. Someone just because they're showing up as their authentic self. Another question for you, Precious. If you knew then what you know now, would you do anything differently? Would you shift anything?
I used to laugh when people said that they would change this or that. I would love to tell you I would, but I wouldn't.
Mm.
I remember when I left my ex-fiance on March 15th, 2010, and how hard that was. And then I met a very famous Hollywood actor who loved me at 327 pounds, which inspired Curvy Girls Lingerie, which inspired Perfect Pictures by Precious. And that's how all it has happened. So yeah, I could stay with my ex-fiance, but would this story be told? So as painful as it was, when I look back, I'm like, thank you, God. Because you know how the story is going to unfold. I don't. And the things you think are just, everything should be over. I feel like God sits up there and he's like, oh, if they only knew it just began. When I was eating out of garbage cans, and when I was, severe alcoholic, I couldn't imagine one day not drinking. I couldn't imagine one day of feeling better. And I used to listen to this song by the group Phoenix. It's called If I Ever Feel Better. Baby, I feel better every day. I thank God for every day, because I can't believe that I tried to take my life on my 38th birthday and I lived to see 42. What you talking about, Willis? I lived to become a 2-time #1 best-selling author of a book that people said by the title alone would never sell. And then the government bought it, into it, QuickBooks, NBC Universal, Federal Reserve Bank, all the places y'all saw you're so conservative would never buy my book, bought it. My 3rd book is coming out and it's already #1 in pre-sale. These are the things that when I say bet on yourself, like, this is my heart I'm giving to y'all. I'm not telling y'all I came, hi, everything was perfect. Everything was great. No, I want y'all to know I went through it. And my heart is so full when my clients call or something big happens, or, something doesn't go through and they still need a pep talk, and it's coming from real life experience and not just platitudes.
That's right.
Like on Sunday, or was it Sunday or Saturday? One of my clients and I were just conversing, and she said something so sweet. I can't remember what she said, but tears fell from my eyes, and I said, I used to think I'd never have a client again. And now she has a TED Talk that we're working on.
You know what's interesting about that too, Precious? And I think that because we can't see the future, which thank God we can't see the future,
right?
Because I think that would be dangerous. But it could be dangerous, because then I don't know that we would push as hard or try as hard or learn as much, and all of those things. So I think that not knowing the future, that there is a total element of faith, right? The universal laws and all of those things. I agree with 1,000%. But I think the other side of that, if we didn't have these pitfalls and you don't go through these really hard times, that how do you know, like you feel so blessed and so grateful that you wake up, your heart is so full. But if you don't have that sorrow, that hurt, that pain, how do you know when things are really good? And the other thing I think too is people look and say, oh, well, that's because she has a law degree, or that's because she got an education, right? It's nonsense, because, like you said, you were homeless, you were eating out of garbage cans, right? You were an alcoholic, all of these things. So what changes, what makes that movement? It has to be within yourself. It never comes from the outside. Nobody picked you up, dusted you off, and said, oh, this is the next little step you should make, right? That's not who you are. You figured it out. You hit, and I know they say you have to hit rock bottom right before you could start coming out and rising up. But I think people think that, well, oh, you did that, but I can't. And well, you must have had a leg up to get in front of Shark Tank, or you knew somebody, or it's all nonsense, right? It's the rhetoric we tell ourselves so that I could say, well, you can't do that. You'll never be able to do that, right? Isn't that what you've learned?
Right. And so that's what I say to people, because I was an outsider. Remember, I told you I came from the inner city of St. Louis, Missouri. I didn't grow up with contacts. I didn't grow up seeing very successful women who looked like me. But if it
Yeah.
wasn't for watching A&E and Intimate Portrait and VH1, and not for, just seeing great videos, but just like, how did people really get there? Now I look back and be like, God was in all of that. And there was a reason why I could sit and watch Bill Curtis, who was a white man out of Chicago. And yet I saw myself in him. He was the Kanye before the Kanye in certain ways, because even though he was an attorney, he flipped it into a journalistic career.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing that I want people to know. You can start being an attorney, and the next thing you know, you could be doing so many other things. Or you can start where you are. Even if you don't go on to pursue higher education, there's a business education that you can get from the University of YouTube, the University of Google.
That's right.
And just flip it and flip it. You hear all these stories about some people who went to Harvard and dropped out, went to Stanford and dropped out. Listen, I got kicked out of Georgetown University Law Center. Yeah, I can tell that story. It's 20-year story now. But when I was going through it, I was so embarrassed and ashamed that for 5 years I couldn't even face people.
Sure.
And now 20 years later, riddle me that. I wish somebody would say, "Oh, girl, but did you get out of Georgetown?" I sure did. And like, the perfect story isn't really perfect.
That's right.
Sorry, it's just not. And so when you hear that people have gone through so much to have a taste of what success looks like and tastes like, it's more palatable because you know that you may be experiencing that right now. When I was homeless, I remember feeling like, and the great thing about being in the Bowery Mission Women's Center, they just say, "Oh, you just have a high paying job," or something like that. And as great as that sounds, writing my own paycheck sounds so much better.
Yeah.
And then living it.
Yeah.
And then having, like the mayor of the city of New York, we NYC, Black entrepreneurs NYC, the MasterCards, the Googles, the links, and like for them to know me on a first name basis. Remember,
Absolutely.
I'm from the hood, and I did it.
That's right.
And I'm still me at the same time. Hashtag toothless aggression. Hashtag pitching for profit. Hashtag pitch please. What? Stop it. I did it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is such an important message, Precious, because I think, with the social media today that we do that comparaphobia, I'm not as good, they're better, they have more, whatever, crap we tell ourselves. But I think the kids today, especially, I felt bad for them because of all of the pressure from social media. And it's funny, I have a 21 and a 24-year-old, and at dinner one night, they both said, "We wish we grew up in the 70s and 80s." My husband and I were like, "Why?"
Wow.
And isn't that interesting? And they said that, like, example, TV, right? They said, now you stream everything. The quality of the TV is crap compared to what it was like when the Sopranos were out, right? And those where remember where we had to actually wait, Precious, for the week for it to come out on the Sunday night or whatever. Now Netflix, everything is streamed, but they said the quality of the TV is lacking, so that you understand what the effort was that went into the Sopranos or whatever the show is. They like our music better. Wasn't that interesting? And the other thing they said,
young people are popping.
I know, but they were like, there was more messaging in our music from the 70s and 80s. And the last thing they said is, like, you just got to go out and play. There wasn't organized sports. Everything wasn't so organized and orchestrated. Isn't that fascinating? And so I feel bad for the kids today because of the social media and all the things you're saying and I love also that you created the lingerie, right? For curvy women. I'm a curvy woman, right? I'm 5'11" and I'm not a size 2, right? But that idea of you are who you are, love who you are right here, right now, because you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, but certainly don't live in the past, right? So be the best you could be right here, right now, today, as you speak to people. So I love your message. So everybody, we're out of time, but I want to share, if you need help in finding your whatever your next step, or how to communicate what you're trying to achieve, or you're trying to get on a TED Talk, if that's your next thing, from soup to nuts, please reach out to Precious. I'm going to give you her website. You have a bunch of cool things on the website, a bunch of videos, so check them out. It just really good insight on her website, which is Perfect Pitches, plural, by Precious. So Perfect Pitches by Precious.com. email Precious if you have a question direct for her. Excuse me, go to Precious at perfectpitchesbyprecious.com. Any like quick tip for anybody listening that they could listen to our show, Precious, and then go and implement?
Yeah, and this is kind of this goes for pitching or anything else. Truly, fortune favors the bold. And I know that sounds kind of like real. No, boldly go in the direction of your dreams. If I didn't put it out there, if I wasn't scared to be ridiculed, if I would listen, they're gonna talk about me anyway. Might as well give you something to talk about. When I said I was gonna host the national syndicated talk show, when I said I was gonna be in commercials, when I said that I was gonna move to New York, when I said I was gonna be the best to have ever done it in these streets. And people called me to the corporate and said, "Oh, I don't see." Baby, thank you, because you held me accountable, and that's why I'm where I am. So fortune favors the bold. Yes, there are some people who say you can't say everything. You don't have to say everything. But if you put out in that ether on social media, I'm about to do it, and some of your people hold you accountable, go do it. You'll feel so much better when you start taking that first step and then other steps start to reveal themselves. Remember that life is not linear. So just because this can crash and burn, it may set off a chain reaction in another place altogether. I started off doing lingerie. I'm the killer pitch master today. And very few people ask me about the lingerie, but when they do, they're like, "Oh man, I know that lingerie is gonna be popping. Where's that?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, even today, when I talk about it, they don't even see it and they want it." That's how you know I'm in my zone of genius.
Yeah.
And that's why I say bet on yourself, because me thinking it moved mountains for others.
I love it. And it's true. We open doors for others that hear our message or learn from us or inspired by us. So what's that ripple effect? And I often say this during the show, Precious, right? We are the pebble in the pond.
Right.
What is that long-term ripple effect that you might have beyond what you even know? And you're much younger than me, but people will see me that I know from 20 years ago that I managed them or I taught them, whatever the position was that I had. And I'll run into them at the diner, locally, and they'll say, do you remember when? And they'll give a scenario. And I think, no, I don't remember it at all. And they'll say, well, let me tell you the impact that had. And I have to tell you, like, you stand there and you go, like, really? Because you think, could I have had that kind of an impact? So even though you're not sure what you're doing, you're the pebble in the pond. There's such a ripple effect, but you have to have faith to take that next step. And I just love what you said. Just take that next step. It's okay if it's the wrong one, because you don't know what chain reaction it's going to cause or who you're going to bump into, or you're going to turn that corner. You might run into Precious and she might help you get on the TED Talks, right? You don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. Live, man. You got to live. You got to be you. So Precious, thank you for being on. Thank you for just sharing your story and vulnerability and being just real authentic with, hey, this is who I am, right? Warts and all, right? Flaws and all. And that's okay. That's what moves us forward. And that's what really makes us successful. So thank you for sharing your story. I really greatly appreciate that.
Thank you, Queen. I'm so honored to be here. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
You too. All right. Hang on there. Don't disconnect with me. All right. So thank you, Precious, again, for taking the time. And you guys, I hope you join me weekly as we question, build, and discover together that no matter what is going on in your life, right? I have my other show, Enlightenment of Change. Subscribe to that one. We talk about change, right? This one, the Heart-Centered Sales Leader. What are you trying to create in business? My guests and I really do hope provide some insight, tools, tips, and strategies you can implement now, because like Precious said at the beginning, and I say every show, it's all about the results, but you got to do something. You got to make a move. You have to take that next step. Thank you all for joining me. You've been listening to the Heart-Centered Sales Leader podcast with me, your Heart-Centered Sales Leader, Connie Whitman on webtalkradio.net. I wish you all just a wonderful, inspired week. And I really challenge you to pick one thing that you can implement today that might make the difference for you tomorrow, 6 months from now, year from now, who knows? But take that first step right here, right now. Thank you, Precious. Thank you all for being on this journey with me. And I really do wish you an inspired week. Thanks, everybody.